And with the 9th Devolution Conference underway in Homa Bay County, today we take a look at devolution at 12. But first, I want us to listen to two people. One, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and then let's go back to back with the host of the Devolution Conference this year, Governor Gladys Wanga.
The county assemblies to effectively undertake their responsibilities, effectively provide oversight, efficiently legislate for counties to perform their mandate, and also robustly represent the people who elected them.
Our task is to make devolution work for all Kenyans, deliver equity, inclusion, and social justice, closing the socio-economic divide.
All right, Jay, summarize for us devolution in 12 years. Sometimes it feels like it's been such a long time. I mean, longer than the 12 years. Yeah. A lot has happened, hits and misses maybe?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'd describe it in three ways. The mind, body, and soul are not in sync. The mind is the framers of the Constitution.
True.
What exactly did they want to achieve with this? 12 years down the line, are we seeing the benefits of devolution as they had hoped to? Are we seeing more and more people, the socio-economic divide that Gladys Wanga is talking about, gap, lessening or it's widening? I think it's widening because we've created little fiefdoms and we've created a new group of oligarchs at the counties, and then there are the poor masses with this. Two, if you look at the body, the people who are at the center of pushing for devolution, the likes of Raila Odinga, who today I saw a number of speakers crediting him to being the father of devolution. I think in their minds they had the 36 federal states of Nigeria in mind and the 50 states of the United States in mind that were autonomous and were able to handle their affairs of the national government. If you look at the soul for me, is the people who are left to execute it. And I think this is where the problem begins. When devolution began in 2013 and we had the first cohort of governors, the president then, Uhuru Kenyatta, I think still had hangovers from the yesteryear's political power that believed that you had to go and bow down to the executive so that you are able to get resources. And that is why, until recently, counties were not able to get what the Constitution prescribes as their fair share of funding so that they're able to unlock the potential in the counties and deliver services as required. Yeah. But be that as may, Yvonne, we also realize that the people who are supposed to chaperone this, the first cohort of governors, the first cohort of senators, they did not understand what this is. There are people who thought that this was going to be a chief executive kind of officer kind of role. And therefore, you had to sit in the office and you had all these beautiful strategic plans that you are going to implement, not forgetting that there was a political side of it. And that is why we saw a number of people leaving the corporate and trying their hands in this, but they were a mess.
Right. Yeah.
Simply because they did not factor in the political side, because they read the Constitution and believed that the national government would play ball as required. But this was not happening. So they were not used to sucking up, to getting funds and all this. Yeah. And that is why there was all that push and pull. And I think from that very moment, we have not seen any success in devolution. If you look at health, a mess. Education. You look at education, the early childhood thing, it's a mess. If you look at the other basic functions like agriculture, that the counties are supposed to handle, fisheries that the counties are supposed to handle. I mean, all these functions are still being held at the national government. Yeah. And even when you have officers and all that, they're not sufficiently empowered to do some of these roles. But then again, almost 15 years in, once we've experienced all this, what would be called teething problems, the people who are now executing devolution at the county levels have realized that there's an opportunity that comes with it. Yeah. And these opportunities are neither for the good of the citizens or the Republic. It is for their own good. And that is what they're anchoring it on.
And Bonnie talks about how 12 years later, devolution is not moving as fast as the Constitution had anticipated.
Yes.
And I think, in my opinion, one of the main reasons, I think you touched on it, is a lack of political goodwill to actually actualize devolution.
Sure.
Because even the central government doesn't seem to almost not really want to release power resources to the counties. Like, for instance, the way IBEC works. It almost looks like persuasion. It's like a hostage negotiation to actually get money to the counties. And then what is automatically supposed to happen is not happening. Money should be getting to counties, a certain amount of money every month.
At a certain time.
At a certain time.
Yes.
It doesn't. In Achille, 3 months. In Achille, 2 months. And counties have to continue functioning. So what do? They resort to borrowing. So you actually have to get into this arrangement with banks where, like, nipatie pesa, nilipe mishahara, nifanye because kazi lazima iendele. Then the money comes, nitarudisha hela. And it's what a lot of counties are facing. But there are those who will say, okay, we need to blame the counties a bit in 2 ways. One, most of them are unable to actually generate any revenue for themselves, to actually be able to cover some of these costs. So you're not at the mercy of, one, the funds that are coming from the national government, and two, not having to go borrow from banks. There are some counties that have actually managed to do this. For example, Muranga. They talk about how when he came in, there was this system that was put in to try and seal all loopholes where money would peter through, kupotea and all that. A lot of counties are not doing that. And so money inapotea. And number two is corruption in the counties. We've had instances from all those reports from the Auditor General or the Control of Budget of how money is being spent. There's no proper paperwork. There's nothing on the ground. Development is not being seen. We're even seeing at the end of the financial year, the amount of money that was supposed to have been used for development, haijaguswa counties. And begs the question about what are these counties actually doing? How are they functioning? When you talk about revenue, I think we need to listen to what Governor Mutahi Kahiga talked about, saying that actually we are collecting a bit more money than we did last year and continue. Monica, can listen to that soundbite?
Collected Kenya shillings 58.95 billion in the financial year 2023-24, which is 72.5% of their target, marking the highest revenue performance in 11 years.
If this has indeed happened, it is a good thing, which means counties are starting to collect money. But is it working for them? Or are we seeing what you're talking about, how those who are benefiting from it are themselves, not the people they are serving, not the counties themselves? Because there are places in this country where devolution has changed things. There are places where I think the first CS for a woman to give birth was done as recently as maybe 4 or 5 years ago. There are places where walipata lami miaka kadhaa iliyopita. There are places where hata stima walipata miaka kadhaa iliyopita because devolution happened. Services were brought closer to the people, even getting some important documents, registration of things. You don't have to travel all the way to Nairobi or the provincial headquarters to get anything done because services have come closer to the people, and that is what the essence of devolution was. But 12 years later, I think there needs to be serious stock taking of where are we vis-a-vis where we should have been, what are the loopholes we need to seal, what are the issues that need to be done to make sure that county governments work the way they do. Yes, the president did sign the County Public Finance Law Amendment Bill 2023 and the County Revenue Allocation Bill into law, which is supposed to ensure autonomy for county assemblies who had long been held in the grip of governors. So what will this mean going forward? So governors will be at the mercy of MCS because now there's some money there. So there is a lot of adding and minusing and balancing that needs to be done for the devolution to actually work the way the drafters of the Constitution intended it to.
Right. I mean, I think there's been some good strides. I mean, I think, like we've said, there's been quite a bit of movement and development that's happening there. But for me, it's just to add on to what you were talking about, you know, mind, body, spirit. And we need to do better with understanding what devolution meant, which was that, one, funds follow function. Two, that it is the people at the grassroots who get to decide for themselves what the priority is, and that is not something that is decided in Nairobi.
True.
If they decide in Kilifi, for instance, that you know, it is ECD that we want to invest in, that may be very different from neighboring Mombasa that decides its health and its, you know, dispensaries and that sort of thing that they want to invest in, from, say, Samburu, who want to do different things. but there's still a mindset shift even amongst the politicians and members of the National Assembly. And I'll give you an example. In the previous administration, what was the refrain that we heard after the handshake between then President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga? That now that we're both in government, development will come to us, even those in opposition.
Exactly.
Yet that is not what devolution said. Devolution said that money goes to the counties, goes to the grassroots, goes to the region, and is not a decision of who is in power. Exactly. And Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, the mantra that we heard during the Moi era. Then fast forward again to this current administration. Now we have the broad-based arrangement. And what do you hear from some of the opposition members of parliament? It is the same song, that now that we're in government, that now development and resources is coming. So we still have the mentality amongst many members of the National Assembly, who, by the way, are the legislators, right? That we must bow down to the executive, bow down to the person at State House, for us to get, that we must be in the same camp, that we cannot dissent, that now that we are together in whatever arrangement you want to call it now, that is when development comes. Now, whatever coalitions that people want to get into or working arrangements, whatever those are, that's all well and good in politics. But I think when we keep hearing this song perpetuated, then it still shows us that we are still pre-2010 mentality. Exactly. And that they, the people who have the power, and by the way, the Constitution gave Parliament even more powers when it comes to deciding how money goes. The PFM Act itself is the one that gives massive power to members of Parliament in terms of deciding and where the money goes, what it goes for, without reference to the president or to the executive or to the head of state or whoever sits in that office. And so for me, I think that mentality needs to continue to be wiped out, because the more they say it, the more also Wananchi tend to think that is the way, and yet we're moving away from that. We should have moved away from that 12 years later. Yeah.
I think, Yvonne, the other important thing that we must also talk about is oversight at the county level, because if you ask all our 47 county assemblies, just in the last 2.5 years, what kind of legislations have they passed that will ensure that devolution works? Very few will come and stand and say, this is what we did. Yeah. These guys are perpetually doing benchmarking tours. They're either in County B doing benchmarking, or they're in a workshop somewhere
or in
doing
country,
very, very little.
Or in another country altogether.
Benchmarking.
Because if our county assemblies and the people we elect into these county assemblies do not understand their role, then devolution will not work. I'll give you a good example where oversight fails, is that you will find counties that 12 years now are still hiring vehicles for use by the county executive. That a vehicle is hired daily at a cost of no less than 30,000 Kenya shillings for the use of the governor. And you realize the funds to buy such vehicles is availed in the budget. And you see, if county assemblies cannot raise this and ask the governor, why are you doing this? Is this value for money for our people? Then it's a mess. So what county assemblies have become is that they are an annex of the executive. Yeah. So whatever the county executive wants, you work closely with the county assembly and you achieve it. And with that, oversight dies. I want to believe with the new fund that they're now going to have their own fund, then we will see some level of oversight kicking in, because they've always said that because we still have to go beg for money from the executive, then there are certain things that we must do so that the governor can release the funds to us. Yeah. With this new law, I really, really hope that oversight at the county assemblies will be something Kenyans can look forward to.
Yeah, and now they have no reason.
They've
no excuse.
Yes.
Although I'm not too sure about the, everybody wants a fund. Everybody wants a fund.
And the politics of it, Yvonne, is that as governors are always looking for re-election. They're always looking for, if I'm a second-term governor, so once I'm done, what next? Probably maybe go into Senate, or something. So that's what's going through their minds. The first, that thing people say, the first 2-3 years, muko tu sherehe. And then year three, kienda kuisha year 4, and oh my God, I need to start campaigning for the next election so that I can be re-elected. That's why maybe they'll start looking for one project here and another one here, so at least you can start kufumba watu macho wakuchague tena. And then when your second term is ending, start looking for a soft landing spot. Utaingia wapi? And you have nothing to show at the end of 10 years that you've actually done. There are some counties where, to date, hospitals have not been built properly, services are not being delivered to the people. You go to things like even roads, markets, things like that that are under the county government are not being done. Yeah. And then this same person has the audacity to come back again in 5 years to ask you to elect them. Amewafanyia nini? And I think even electorate, we need to start looking at these people critically and decide, do we want you back again? And not to forget too easily what this person has put you through for 5 years. Hakuna kitu mwafanyia, mnalalamika kila mara, hakuna huduma hospitali, hakuna dawa, hakuna market, hakuna nini. But then they come back and beg for your votes after 4 or 5 years, and you still give them the opportunity to come and rip you off even more.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Now, speaking of funds, there is another row that is brewing between the National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission. Now, at the heart of it is the payroll. So the question is, who gets to handle the payroll of the police? Is it the police themselves per se, or is it the commission? Now, I want us to listen to this row that's been brewing for the past couple of months. By the way, that payroll, if I'm not wrong, sits currently with the National Police, right? Yeah. But I want us to listen to this one. The chairperson of the Internal Security Committee at the National Assembly, who's talking about this issue of the payroll and indeed how, if at all, it gets solved.
There have been a lot of push and pull between the National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission, especially in regards to the payroll. And of course, if approved by these members, you are going to be in a very critical position of a chair.
For as long as the National Police Service Commission has an opportunity to oversee, to audit whatever that goes into the payroll, then this debate of whether the physical payroll, where it should sit, is a matter that can be discussed.
All right, now that was the chairperson nominee for the National Police Service Commission, but now the chair of the Public Accounts Committee in the National Assembly, Tindi Mwale, also weighed in on this issue. It's obviously a hot button one for these two bodies.
And the accounting officer of National Police Service, we want you, especially the accounting officer, to hand over all the HR function, especially the payroll. You hand over.
Right, so that has not happened. Apparently they were given 1 week to make sure that that will be done. Jay, why is this so important to both the Police Service and the Police Service Commission? Why are they fighting over the payroll?
It's funds. The 60 billion shillings police budget. Who controls it? And I think these are some of the things that the Constitution and the framers of it had thought would be as clear and as plain as black and white. And again, the problem we have here, Yvonne, is people who still have hangovers and believe that this constitution was passed and enacted just as a measure to tick the box. Yeah. Because look at it this way. If you are going to say that the National Police Service Commission is going to handle promotions, hirings and all that, right, then ideally payroll should be a function of the National Police Service Commission. And I think for the people who are insisting that the IG needs to have this control, I'd ask them a simple question. How does the Judicial Service Commission and the Office of the Chief Justice work? Yeah. Why haven't we had a similar controversy from that other side? It's simply because people read the law, they know what the law says, and they act as the law wants. Again, we go back to law and order. However, within the police service, the National Police Service, there's still this belief that promotions and all these should be handled by the Office of the Inspector General. If I take you slightly back to about, was it last year, when the National Police Service Commission had indicated that they had promoted a couple of officers, and the IG told them, take those positions at your own risk. It would result into a disciplinary issue. That they advertised for vacancies in the police service, and police officers were told, don't you dare. That there were supposed to be interviews done, and the IG and his deputies refused to attend. So it simply tells you it's a supremacy battle on who controls the money. While it is very, very clear that what the Constitution had asked to be done, because for you to achieve certain independence, for you to achieve that oversight role, then there has to be a body that looks at how the police officers operate. And if I'm going to hire you, at what point do I negotiate salary? It's at the hiring stage. When I promote you, at what point do I discuss salary? It can't be that I hire you, then you go to a different room to negotiate for salary. That I promote you, then you go to a different room for negotiations. So that is why there is even a petition in court today that is seeking interpretation. Because they're saying, what we are seeing is simply the National Police Service trying to get hold of this payroll, while the Constitution is very explicit on where it's supposed to sit. But then again, the tragedy is that the CS Interior weighed into this, and he seems to be backing the police commissioner, the IG of the police on this function. I think this is a point that we really need to have this law interpreted so that we are done with it once and for all. Because if we don't, then as long as the National Police Service Commission exists and the National Police Service exists, we will have this battle. And I don't think the IG is ready and has the political will to surrender that payroll to NPCSE.
And you know, this again is testing the Constitution of Kenya 2010 once again, because we didn't have the National Police Service Commission prior to the Constitution. And, you know, that's clearly spelled out Article 246, which entrusts the Commission with human resource management entirely for the police service. So that's recruitment, like you said, promotions, transfers, disciplinary action, and even welfare. And so, usually, you know the way we say funds follow functions? It would be the same that, at least from some legal minds, that whoever handles the HR functions would oversee the payroll as part of their functions. Now, on the other hand, the National Police Service, that is responsible for operational command and deploying officers, right? But the IG also serves as the accounting officer, right, under public finance laws. And that is what the Office of the Inspector General is citing as a means to keep the payroll records, because they're saying they have responsibilities under the Public Finance Management Act that gives them some broader type of administrative autonomy. Now, like you were saying, we see what happens with the courts. Remember the parliamentary committee, that's PAC, directed that that payroll be transferred. They were supposed to do this in 2 weeks. That was in July. We're now mid-August. That has not happened. Of course, the IG says there will be delays in the payroll and disruptions if this goes to the National Police Service Commission. We wait to see how the legal interpretation goes. But I think at the heart of this, I wonder if this would set precedents elsewhere. Because what we're now saying, if we try to litigate this issue or even get some sort of legal opinion or advisory, is whether payroll management is inseparable from HR oversight. And what would this mean across the board? For this set of precedents, right? In very many other private sector, even in government. So if you have the HR function, is that inseparable from the payroll? So do you handle everything else, like you're saying, and have somebody else that handles the payroll? That is something to be seen. But Jamila, before you weigh in, there's also something else that is happening within the police service, and let's talk about those HR functions now, right? One which is recruitment. And Jay, help us understand. So there is an online sort of filter process in the recruitment, and that again is also causing a bit of a storm or a debate. So explain this to us.
Explain what is
controls. What in this week the National Police Service Commission has been doing public participation. over the system that they want to deploy in trying to manage police recruitment. We are supposed to be recruiting 10,000, I think, additional officers this year. And what the National Police Service Commission is proposing is that we have an online portal where if you're interested in becoming a police officer, a serviceman or a servicewoman, you go there and there are basic issues that will help filter before you go to the next stage. The argument is, as opposed to announcing that there will be police recruitment, let's say a city stadium. Yes, and 100,000 of you show up there, and it's supposed to be one day, and we only need 20 people. So why don't we have a system where we profile and we filter, and then once we do that, then we invite you now, so that not everybody comes and get that.
Yeah.
But again, the National Police Service is saying, nope, we've done this for ages, and we do it our own way.
Right.
We cannot allow our system to take charge of people who are going to come into service.
Let's listen to some of those police officers in that public participation exercise that you've mentioned and hear their views on this.
Hata kama ni online, wewe utaenda kwa cyber, ukiapply hiyo kitu itaenda kwa mkono ya mkubwa huko. Mkubwa wa mtoto yake akiapply atapata link. Ama hata hawa askari unaona, askari mdogo akiapply hapati link mtoto yake. Askari mkubwa akiapply atapata link. Kwa hivyo nikiongea kwa niaba ya wananchi wengi, wananchi wamekataa mambo ya online.
If you change directly, if you take the direct change over to the system recruitment, that will be a monster that you're creating. And I pray that it does not bite you, the Commission. So, if you must insist on taking the system shortlisting, kindly, let there be a manual or parallel manual way for people to apply. Please, because this is something I'm predicting, we'll get a blow like the one Commission got below the belt on 30th October, first floor, Milliman Law Court, room number 3.
Now you are recruiting a fresh graduate from university who has just completed a degree in animal husbandry. This is the only place where I've heard there is no experience required. And when you are recruiting graduates, you recruit about 800. In the service, we have more than 2,000 graduates. What about them? Is that not violation? Is that not segregation? What do we call it?
And once again, before we come back to the discussion, you now see, again, even in this issue of police recruitment, that, again, it's the National Police Service versus the National Police Service Commission.
Ni nini hii commission imeona AUG amekosea? After all these years, mume incorporate commission kwa recruitment, simuambia hii watu AUG amefanya makosa gani mpaka mumeona mu incorporate watu wenu?
Yo.
Yeah.
And
Yo.
That last bite tells you how they've personalized that recruitment. And let's be honest. Police recruitment is a cash cow. That's a fact. It's a cash cow. And we have done stories. We have reported on cases of how people pay bribes up to about 500,000 shillings so that they can have an opportunity. And for me, on these recruitment issues, it's all about people trying to protect their turf and realizing that once you thin out people and we only have 20 or 30 coming in, then the feeding basket is slimmer. Because if you tell 1,000 people to show up at City Stadium, we are very cunning people as a nation. Nearly 3/4 of them watakuja na wametembea na bahasha to try and influence the process. So an online or a digitalized system tends to curb all this. And that is why that police officer is asking, ni nini mmeona IG amefanya mbaya? This is not about the IG.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that he's done anything wrong,
exactly.
right?
It's just
streamlining a process.
Streamlining a process and have efficient ways of doing these things. We've recruited from the field where they look at your feet and your teeth and all that for donkey years. Why don't we try a system that will give us quality, but also at a very low cost of operation? So for me, the battle between the National Police Service Commission and the National Police Service is all about, one is civilian-led. And therefore, the servicemen believe these civilians cannot come into our turf and try and dictate how we do things. And it's a battle that if the courts do not come and interpret what the Constitution desired and what the Constitution actually speaks of, then we will still continue to have these battles that we are not supposed to be engaging in 12 years after we had this Constitution.
And what does this do to the police officers themselves? Not those ones high up there, but the normal police officer who's there doing their job. What does it do to their morale, to their understanding of things, and to how they do their job? Security is vital. Security is important. And police officers, all those things that have been said about them withstanding, play a very important role. And they've had issues about pay, they've had issues about their mental health, they've had issues about even their housing, there have been issues about the negativities about bribery. The recent report that was released, they were at the top of the bribery index. But then now, what does this push and pull about who has payroll, who has HR, who has all this, or how are we recruiting? What does it do to them as people who are given the mandate of providing security? What does it do to their morale? Because as you talked about how the courts have to interpret what the Constitution says. And once there's that ruling, na imetangazwa ni hivi, people have to accept and move on. As you said, it's been 12 years. And in fact, I was asking myself, why has this chipukad? Suddenly, because it's been 12 years. So there's been some mechanism that has been working for the past 12 years. So why suddenly
or not
that
this is an issue that has been
imetokota sasa ndio imelipuka. But there has to be a solution. There really has to be a solution. You can't continue like this.
I think it's about how, and perhaps we need to give ourselves more grace, I don't know, but still remain vigilant that since 2010 that we're still trying to understand the spirit of having a constitution and constitutionalism, and trying to interpret what the Constitution says, what it intends, what the spirit of it meant, because we have all of these things that are written down in law. This is what this body does, this is what this other one does. But yet, since 2010, we're still having these wrangles between the two. As we close, I just want us to listen to the Cabinet Secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen, who talked about, trying to find a solution between these two.
I have a meeting tomorrow with the Commission and the IG, and then we will work together until we find a solution. This is a very sensitive sector. We do not intend to see any wrangles.
And he's right. It's a sensitive sector, so this is something that they need to sort out, and sort out quickly, and make sure that it is in the spirit and the letter of the law, and more importantly, of the highest law in the land, and that's the Constitution of Kenya 2010. On that note, Jamila? Tumalize. Abuse of power.
Matumizi mazuri ya mamlaka.
Sio ukaidi.
Go for it.